Match previews are back, and we are also back at Deepdale for the first time this season as we take on Sunderland. I am joined by Michael. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for having me.
We've not got much to go off, seeing that it's the start of the season, apart from obviously our first games and pre season. But we're going to try and do a match preview for the upcoming game, Preston North End versus Sunderland in game week 2. So the transfer window, it is still open, but you've got until the end of the month for the deadline day. But how has your business been so far?
It's been pretty solid. I mean, basically, for those of you who don't know, our model is we've got a model now where we recruit younger players, develop them, and give them a platform to perform. And let's be honest, a part of that is going to be to sell them for a profit, but you have to run sustainably because I don't think many teams in this league make a profit, basically, unless you're one of the teams that sells a bunch of players when you come down from the Premier League. But it's been pretty good so far. The bulk of the signs were made. We made a player called Luis Semedo, who's been featuring for Benfica's B team, but it's obviously he's going to take a bit of time to adjust to men's football because he's been playing against kids, basically. Joe Bellingham, that's probably the biggest profile signing we've made so far from Birmingham, as you probably know. Bradley Dack, we've signed on a free transfer, but obviously that's probably influenced by Grandpa Tony. To be fair, I'm trying to think, there was another one we made. We made a couple of younger centre backs, and we've signed another striker called I think his surname is Mienda from a French club, I believe. But in typical Sunderland fashion, he gets injured during his first training session. He's out for a couple of months. So we seemed, as you well documented last year, we had no luck with injuries whatsoever. But so far, we still probably need a couple of key positions in the squad. For me, I think we need a more experienced defensive midfielder if we can get one, a number 10 to replace Amad Diallo, or Ahmad coming back if Man United want to forget that he had a loan spell here and don't want him to go to the Premier League. That'd be great. A striker and a winger. But overall, so far, it's been a solid window so far, but we still have a bit of work to do, I think.
Yeah, well, as I said, not got much to go off, but how is your side looking coming into this new season? Obviously, you've just recently in your first game 2-1 defeat to Ipswich Town. How did you look in that game?
I thought first it's weird that we went through spells of that game where the game was completely different. We first half I thought we dominated a lot of the game until we got to the final third, and then we seemed to look a bit clueless. We didn't quite know what to do, as if we weren't able to adjust to not having Amad Diallo there. But saying that, we did have a good chance where Pierre Ekwa, one of our central midfielders, has a shot. Their keeper spills it, and then I don't know if you've seen the miss, but Joe Bellingham basically misses an open goal on the rebound. Where if you score that, then it's a different game. Of course, we Ipswich have Nathan Broadhead, who we had on loan in our last year in League One, and typically he scores against us right before half time. As natural, I'm sure Preston have had that before, where ex players come back to haunt you. Always happens that way. Start of the second half, the first 20, 30 minutes, we were very, very shaky. We were lucky probably not to be more than 2-0 down. And then obviously we had a man sent off, and then we made a couple of changes. And towards the end, we actually dominated with 10 men. So hopefully that is more of a wake up call for us to actually get the players in. I do believe we will get the players in, but it highlighted it a bit more. You got a 1-1 draw at Bristol City at the weekend, didn't you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought so. Because am I right? Did Will Keane score for you?
Yes, he did,
Yes, I
yeah.
thought he did. I
86
thought he did.
minute.
How did you? Sorry.
Yeah, late equaliser, 86th minute.
Ooh. Oh, fair enough then. Okay, no,
Yeah.
games always feel better when you score late goals and you get something.
Hmm.
How did Preston look? What was the perspective from your end at Bristol City?
Yeah, well, first half we didn't have a single shot. I think Bristol had one. It was very boring first half, just ball being played in the middle.
Mm,
We looked very tight in the middle. Um, Wide areas, we looked a bit weak on. Obviously, left wing back, our only fit left wing back at the moment is 17-year-old Keane Best, who did really well down the left hand side going forward, but defensively is not quite there yet for facing
mm.
championship attackers. Second half, we conceded very early on in the 47th minute, and that's pretty much what we were like for the majority of last season. The first 10 minutes of the second half is probably where we're at our weakest. But then, as soon as we conceded that goal, we looked a lot better, and then we had 11 shots and hit the post. Should have had a penalty from quite a clear handball with what we think, but then our late equaliser probably shouldn't have counted because there was a handball in the build up to it, so it pretty much evened it out. But yeah, I'll take the 1-1 draw. But definitely, we're strong in the middle of the pitch, but wide areas is not really our strongest point, which is I'm a bit wary of Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts. Are they any good wide players? Going. Do you play like a wide system?
The system we probably tend to do is a 4-2-3-1 at the moment. So we end up having obviously two deeper midfielders. We have Dan Neil and Pierre Ekwa in the midfield. Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts last season. I mean, unfortunately for you guys, you saw at the end of last season that obviously Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts had Amad Diallo through, interchanging with them, and it meant that we were quite unpredictable with a lot of our attacks, and it was hard to defend against. Obviously now we've got Joe Bellingham at the minute, based off the first game, starts as a number 10, and he adds quite a bit of height to the midfield actually. But Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts are probably more, how can I put this, restricted to their roles out wide, which means that if you defend properly against them, you could maybe get some joy. But obviously, look, we know they've both got quality, and if they do turn it on, then we're a threat against almost anyone in this league, I think. But it's going to they definitely do play out wide though. So I don't know what you guys are like defending against wide players, but it's going to be one where if we cut chances against most teams, but you've got to obviously do that. If you do well enough against us defensively, then we do tend to struggle to break teams down who sit deeper. Question I was going to ask you, if you don't mind, what's happened with the Tom Cannon saga? Because I either want him to sign for you, so that I'm sick of hearing about him, or sign for anybody. Because obviously, I don't know if you saw, but on one of your forums a couple of weeks back, there was suggestions we had a bid accepted for him, which I think has turned out to be a load of nonsense. And then obviously there was rumours that you guys are willing to pay the loan fee. I think apparently Everton are wanting. But I was just curious to know if there was anything from your end. Like, is it closer to happening for you?
Well, the reports that we've seen is obviously we were just waiting for Everton to sign a forward player, which they almost have done, that youngster from Sporting Lisbon. There's Stoke City and obviously yourself interested also. It has been rumoured that we have paid the 1 million that Everton are asking for, but there's just some other accounts that say that Stoke and Sunderland are willing to pay a bit extra, so it's getting into like
the problem is who you believe,
bidding
isn't
war.
it? Yeah, the problem is which publication do you believe? Because some of them just talk utter nonsense. Like they sometimes make stuff up as they go along. So no, it's a point in the transfer window where it's silly season, isn't it? And then you just get one report, one outlet telling you one thing, and then another one telling you something completely different. But no, I was just curious to know your thoughts. If you do sign him, hopefully you can wait till after Saturday if you don't mind. But knowing my look now, I've said that he's going to be signed on the dotted line Friday lunchtime, and then he's ready to start against us, and then I'll look like an idiot probably.
Yeah, well, if he probably does, if he does sign, then he'll probably be on the bench, maybe not thrown straight in, or depending on match fitness also, because he is just coming back from an injury.
Fair enough.
Is there any other standout players that we should look out for?
Again, in the midfield, I think Pierre Ekwa. This was the lad that we signed from West Ham in January, I think it was. And it took a while for him to get going, but towards the back end of last season, I think probably including the game at Deepdale where we got into the playoffs, he dictated he's dictated quite a lot of the midfield at the end of last season in games. I think, and against Ipswich, I thought he was our best player. Dan Neil again plays in the same position as him, where they basically go to dictate things. Sorry, I don't know. I think I cut out there. Basically go to dictate things from deeper roles. Obviously, Joe Bellingham again. I think we're going to try and aim to use him as an outlet to sort of to keep the ball headed down and then get it out wide towards like Clark and Roberts to interchange. And then obviously defensively, we've got two good fullbacks in Trey Hume and Dennis Turkin. As of right now, I mean, half of our attacking players always seem to be injured, so we've got a couple of players for you to be wary of. But again, we probably have a starting 11 full of injuries at the moment because it's just the typical Sunderland way. Have you got anyone that we should look out for?
Well,
probably anyone who's not scored for a while, because that's always the case.
our standout players are currently injured at the moment. Ched Evans and Emil Rees, our two strikers, they're out for another month. We've also probably got arguably one of our best midfielders, Benjamin Whiteman, who is coming back from an injury. He might start or be on the bench for tonight's Carabao Cup game against Salford. We've also got Robbie Brady, who's out for a couple of weeks, who, 50-50 may or may not be available for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I'll probably say just the standout players that I saw from when we played Bristol last week was Mads Froger Jensen, our new attacking midfielder signing from Denmark. Will Keane was looking good. Ali McCann came in for the injured Ben Whiteman and did a really good job.
Yeah.
And then also our 17-year-old Kean Best looked well. As I said, not the greatest defensively, but getting forward is pretty good.
Fair enough then. Fair enough.
Yeah. Where do you think that you'll finish come the end of the season then? Do you think you'll make it into those playoffs?
Oh, a lot, because as you probably know with Preston, a lot of it depends on the last few weeks of the window, doesn't it? It depends on what you bring in. But saying that, we
Yeah.
do tend to get quite good loan deals for Premier League youngsters who are ready at championship level once they bed in. If you ask me, do I think you will? Yes, because you probably heard about how a lot of people view the Championship as a lot stronger. And I think the teams coming down from the Premier League are stronger. But I would argue that a lot of teams, especially teams around us, maybe with the exception of Coventry, have lost quite a number of players. And as a result, I think a lot of the Championship in some senses is weaker, even though it's going to be more competitive, which I know makes no sense. And I've just completely contradicted myself. But if you ask me, do I think we'll finish in the top six? Yes. I think because some pundits, some people predict us to finish top two, which I personally think is a bit unrealistic with the teams that have come down. I mean, come on, we're not going to finish ahead of at least two of the relegated sides. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, I would say probably about fifth or sixth. Which, to be honest, if you offered me it now, I would take. Even if we didn't go up again, I think the expectation for us is to a challenge for the playoffs at the very least. What about you? Where do you think Preston will finish?
Same as usual, mid-table. I've got us down
Sounds
to
very
be
inspiring.
yeah. I've put us down to be 14th, but obviously top six would be nice. But I'll be happy if we got top 10.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I suppose the very minimum, if you're going to be around mid-table, you want to make sure you're well clear down the bottom, aren't you? You want to make sure you're not
Yeah.
remotely dragged into that battle. And I think there are definitely worse teams than Preston.
Right. So we met each other 3 months ago. Final game of last season, where obviously you beat us 3-0. I do think you are going to cause us some problems down the wide sides. I'm a bit worried about those areas at the moment. Obviously, with few players injured in those positions. Also, another wing back, Calvin Ramsey, that we brought in on loan from Liverpool. He's still recovering from an injury, so should be strengthened soon. But I think Saturday will come a bit too soon for them. So coming into our score predictions, I'm not confident at all, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 away win for you guys.
I always hate this because then it sets us up for a fall, doesn't it? I think we've got the quality to win the game. But look, come on, let's be honest. Like, the game last season, in some senses, was an anomaly because you had nothing to play for then, didn't you? So I think it's going to be a completely different type of game this time. But I'll back us to win. But we always tend to concede a goal out of nothing. So I would say probably 2-1. Will Keane always tends to score against us, I think. So he scored against us for Wigan last season. If we are to try and push for the playoffs, then I think, well, actually, maybe not so much this game, but game like, Rotherham at home is who we've got after you guys. And that's the game we really need to be winning as well. But I'd say 2-1 us, but you don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Oliver. Cheers.
Good luck for the rest of your season. And we'll see what happens on Saturday.